Whether understanding you a courtesy, cause really you a Hershey. Surely that's your girl's kid, you the track, close to her host. While your girl strapped, niggas been the fire, niggas you can stop. If your feelings raise a child, you'll be insane asylum. Waiting on shallow, threat to my survival in the presence of a Bible. You'll never be a rival, just a pussy with a title, or better yet, sitting by the doctor's plate, dead ass bars, jumping out the bars, tripling the stitches, calling us for break that. We taxing over churches, giving two people redemption, but death was the sentence. Real niggas there in jail, well, we in the church. I got to go. Ain't y'all it out? Hell no. I got to tell y'all. We go to club. They on the club. Y'all had enough. You became got a night for after picking my sugar cane, we taking over the world, Pinky to the brain. Game, bless us, put it up, house, lease the type of coolers you rather see cooking mouses. On the other house, and no crackers alive. No stain gas, Africans fading and back movement. What kind of shit is that? The ox they think the licking white chicks and drinking dog. Keep the skin cause of that. I said, bitch, nobody listening. All the above, pushing a cushion. We all club. They all club. Y'all had enough. You became got back to club. Chef. That's a little like chef. What is that? Just a fish. That sounds like chef.
This for my niggas that kneel on the field. Light skinned nigga, you gon' find me in the field. House niggas looking at a nigga like chill. I go hard when it's real in the field. This for my niggas that kneel on the field. Light skinned nigga, find me in the field. I don't give a fuck how a house nigga feel. Belly of the beast, we been living in hell. They like, damn, Kai, how could you tell? Put us in the project, send us up the field. Round here, bullets be flying like hell. Too many of my niggas either dead or in jail. Make a nigga work when you locked in a cell. Can't find work when you out on bail, but your homie got the work, so we pass you the scale. Got them birds like the Bible got quail. Niggas selling out cause their mama got bills. Turning the crews like Oprah and Gail. How you sell your soul just to get a little kale? They put you on the tricks when you get a record deal. Wanna see a nigga getting high on pills? You can dance on the pole, you can sell that tail, but they never tell a nigga that he can go to Yale. We all pretty equal, that's white male. All lives matter, not black males. Another mother crying, another coffin got a nail. And how many brothers out here got killed? How many of our sisters out here gotta heal? How many more caps gotta get peeled? We beat with each other so quick that hold still. George Zimmerman still alive and well. I turn up when it's real in the field. This for my niggas that nail on the field. Light skinned nigga, you can find me in the field. House niggas looking at a nigga like chill. I go hard when it's real in the field. This for my niggas that nail on the field. Light skinned nigga, find me in the field. I don't give a fuck how a house nigga feel. I turn up when it's real in the field. Feel. This for my niggas that nail on the field. Field. Light skinned nigga, you gon' find me in the field. Field. House niggas looking at a nigga like chill. Chill. Yo, chill. They just want us to die in silence. They just want us to die in silence. I might start me a fucking riot. Slave rebellion, no compliance. They just want us to die in silence. They murder minds like they got a license. I pray for the coronavirus to kill all of these violent tyrants. They prey on us like they're coaching lions. World War III's on the horizon. Black and Hispanic storm alliance. From the west coast to the islands. This pressure is making diamonds. They were wicked, sleeping giants. I turn up when it's real in the field. This for my niggas that kneel on the field. Light skinned nigga, you can find me in the field. House niggas looking at a nigga like chill. I go hard when it's real in the field. This for my niggas that kneel on the field. Light skinned nigga, find me in the field. I don't give a fuck how a house nigga feel. I turn up when it's real in the field. Feel. I don't give a fuck how a house nigga feel. Feel.
All right. Check. Okay. Shalom, Israel. We're the ISUPK, started on the 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. Since 1969, we've been teaching so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians the truth according to the Bible. All right. Let's see. Every Sunday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. we'll be having Sharpen the Sword Radio. We'll be hosting it right here. 5261 Delmar Boulevard, Suite A. The call-in number is 712-832-8330, and the access pin is 910-1409. I mean, if you think you got better doctrine or you know the Bible better than the men of the Lord, go ahead and call on up the radio show and see if you might have a point. All right. Let's see here. The next one is second. All right. Coming up on October the 2nd, we'll be having another food drive, or bi-weekly food drive right here in the parking lot at 5261 Delmar Boulevard. It'll be in the parking lot from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Just pull on up. We'll load up your trunks. You don't even got to get out. All right. Anything else? You got any questions?
No, that's it.
Okay. Just hop straight into this lesson. All right. Most men in the ISUPK are here to be leaders. And if you're not, you need to reevaluate what you're doing there. Because that's what the ISUPK is doing. We raising up priests and prophets of the Most High. And to be a priest and prophet and to correctly do it, and not to get out here and be fake and be, how we used to say ain't no half stepping. How to be all the way in this and how to be real is you have to come up under leadership that prepares you to become a leader yourself. All right. I want to start in Hebrews, the 5th chapter, start with the 12th verse. Because it tells it in Hebrews 5 and 12. Starting out 12, kind. Because here we come into the school. First off, this isn't a church, it's a school. You come here to learn. We ask questions, we get answers, and we get answers that are laid out and make perfect sense once you take the spookism off the Bible. But coming from the world, we all have these different and differing doctrines that we need to get rid of. So we need to come back in here, as Christ said, as a baby. All right, you read that verse?
Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12.
Uh-huh.
For the time ye ought to be teachers.
See, now most of us came into this school as grown men. And at that time in your life, you should have enough knowledge to be a teacher. But we don't, because we grew up in this society, grew up in this world, believing that the white man is God, and believing that he's Christ, and he's everything good in the world, and we was niggas. That's what we've been raised, and that's what we've been taught our whole lives. So we need to get rid of everything that we built up over our life. So at this time, we should be teachers. Okay, keep going.
Ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God.
See, we need people to teach us again, because we weren't taught right. We weren't raised right. Our mama did not raise us right.
Right.
At the end of the day, she did the best she could, but she didn't raise you right, because you wasn't in the truth. She most likely raised you in the Christian church, a Muslim mosque, and that's where most of our people are. But that is not the way we should be raised. That's not the way we should have grown up. So when we became physically men, we were not actual men, because the only real man is a man who follows the word of the Most High. All right, so we need to be taught again the first oracles of God. Go ahead.
And are become such as have need of milk, and not of strong meat.
We don't need the. When you come in, you need to realize something, and this might be a little difficult for a lot of new brothers. You don't need the Dragon and Revelations breakdown when you walk in the door. You don't need some deep understanding when you walk in the door. You need the first principles of the Most High. You need the first principles of God. You need to learn the commandments. You need to stick to the basics. That's where you need to build from. You need a foundation, because we come in here and we're so used to being in the world and being on the internet and being able to get any question answered or ask anything that we want to know without actually forming a basis for it, which leads to things like conspiracy theories and us going all the way off because we have so much information, but we have no foundational knowledge. And that's what this verse is talking about. It's talking about we should be teachers, but we need to get to that foundation. We need to get to the basics. The basics are the commandments of the Most High. All right, 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2. Because you need to get the basics. You need to get the foundation laid. And what you need to do is you need to build experience on top of that. Because experience is one of the best teachers in life. And you need to, that's one of the only ways you learn. You learn through experience, and you learn through actually taking in the knowledge of someone above you. So you count on the time.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2. As newborn babes, Desire the sincere milk of the word.
See, it's comparing you to a newborn baby, to a newborn baby. The way that the baby desires that milk from its mother, coming into this truth, that should be the way that you desire to know the commandments, to know the basics, because that's the milk. That is, at the end of the day, that is what you are saved by. That is what you will receive salvation by. That is what you will attain your perfection through, is by knowing knowing all of, Revelations and Isaiah 60. That's great. That's great and wonderful. But that's not going to teach you how to love your brother. That's not going to get you off of crack. That's not going to fix your life. What's going to fix your life and what's going to get you right is learning the basics, learning your foundation. Any more of that verse?
God. That ye may grow thereby.
And it's also you can grow. It's so that's why you need that sincere milk. That's why you need the milk and not the meat for you to be able to grow. Actually, I watched. I can't remember. It was some scientific study or some scientific show I was watching, and they said that if a person had breast milk their entire life, they would not ever be nutritionally deficient. Milk is the only thing that you can have your entire life, and it has everything you need in it. It has everything your body needs to function. That's why this Bible is so deep. It is so ahead of its time. Like, before all this scientific research, the milk is what you need to survive. It's what builds you. It's what grows you. And the commandments of the Most High is that milk. It will grow you. It fortifies you. It does a body good, like the commercial used to say. All right.
Milk does a body good.
Let's see. Next one we'll go Acts 8. I'm sorry, 27. And
Acts 8 and what?
8 and 27.
27?
Kind of. But, and all of that is saying that you need this milk. You need to come in as a babe. Well, one thing about babies and that milk, they cannot feed themselves. They don't know how to feed themselves. They need to be fed. So just as a baby needs to be fed the milk, you coming into the truth need to be fed the commandments, need to be fed the law. You need to be fed that milk. And
You said Acts 8 and 27, right?
sorry, 27.
Acts chapter 8, verse 27.
Uh-huh.
And he arose and went,
Mm-hmm.
and behold, a man of Ethiopia.
So this is talking about the Apostle Philip, and he went and he met a man coming from Ethiopia. Go ahead. Now, I believe this was during
Passover.
this was during a feast.
Yeah.
So the man was from Ethiopia, but he was in Jerusalem at the required time of the year. That he's an Israelite who was just living in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So we see that he met this Ethiopian resident who had been who was great in Ethiopia. He was a eunuch. Keep going.
And eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians.
Now, see, we see that this man had a high position. He was a eunuch, and he was directly under the queen of Ethiopia. Keep going.
Yeah. Who had the charge of all her treasure.
Now, he was an accountant. I don't know a dumb accountant. Like, they're not stupid. They get things, they can read a book and understand what a book is saying.
Yeah.
So, him being intelligent is irrelevant to his actual knowledge. Keep going.
and had come to Jerusalem for to worship.
Again, like I said, he was, he was there for one of the feasts, as all Jews had to report to Israel.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
Verse 28, was returning and sitting in his chariot, read Esaias the prophet.
So he was reading a scroll. He was reading an Isaiah scroll. He was reading the prophet Isaiah. Again, this Israelite who was following the commandments was reading. So he knew enough to follow the commandments, and he knew enough that he was supposed to be reading Isaiah. Hop down to verse 30. Count.
Verse 29, then the Spirit said unto Philip, go near and join thyself to this chariot.
So this is the Spirit of the Most High telling him, go over there. He needs something. So doing your duty as a priest and a prophet is being led by the Spirit. Doing what you're supposed to do, instructing Israel and taking the message to our people, that is doing your duty as a priest and a prophet. Keep going.
Verse 30,
Mhm.
and Philip ran thither to him,
Right?
and heard him read the prophet Esaias,
Uh-huh.
and said, understandest thou what thou readest?
So now, it's not that he couldn't read, obviously. It's not that he wasn't intelligent.
I need your consent on a few items.
But Philip still asked him, do you understand what you read? Now, what Philip was doing was Philip was actually just gauging to see exactly how intelligent this man was. Because an unintelligent man would say, yeah, no, I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. No, I picked up this book and I can tell you what it is. So this man is not an example of those what we call individualites. That's not this man, because we understand that you need instruction first. That not everyone understands exactly what they're reading. It's not a given that, oh no, I read it, of course I know what it means. No, that's not you. Comprehension is not always implicit. It's not always just there.
Right.
All right, keep reading.
Verse 31,
Uh-huh.
and he said, how can I, except some man should guide me?
Now again, I've said it's shown exactly how intelligent this man was. He is over the treasury for an entire kingdom. This man, obviously, even though, especially since the kingdom was not Israel, he was able to be escorted and have chariots taken to his home, obviously granted by the queen that he served, to be able to worship. This man had rank, had authority, and had power where he was. But in the scripture, he understood that he needed to be taught. He needed to learn from a man who had already had the milk, who has already had that experience. Because in the truth, experience matters. It's not just you can recite scriptures. Anybody can recite scriptures. Anybody can throw out a scripture and throw it back. But do you apply those scriptures? Do you understand what you read in? Does the gravity of what you reading actually weigh on you? Is this something that's real to you, or is this just something that you're saying? And again, this man, his experience, he had experience, but his experience was not in the scripture. Your external experience is irrelevant. The priests and the prophets of the Most High God are more intelligent, especially on these scriptures, than any doctor or lawyer or whatever you got, because they don't know this. They just don't know. So as a leader and as a priest and a prophet, you have to get experience, but you don't want to just follow anyone. You have to get experience from the right sources. And we go to 1 Kings chapter 12 and start at verse 6. Count over time. So, start at verse 1. Count on that, verse 1. Count on that.
First Kings chapter 12, verse 1. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king.
So this was right after King Solomon died and his son Rehoboam was taking over, was going to become king. And he's about to face a test, in his first test as king, as soon as he gets crowned. All right, I down to verse 4. Count on that.
Verse 4. Thy father made our yoke grievous.
So this is his brother Jeroboam and all of Israel coming, and on the day they go to make him king, they come and address their complaints, because you know us, we ain't go not complain. You give us a chance, you give us an audience, we gonna complain. Whether it's valid or not, we gonna air our grievances. All right, and they said that what King Solomon did, he put his yoke was grievous. He made his service grievous. Keep going.
Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father, and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve thee.
They said, now look, we'll serve you if all of that heavy stuff that your father King Solomon put on us, if you just make it lighter. If you make it easier to go ahead and function and live around here, and we get a little bit more leeway, then we'll serve you. All right, that was verse. All right, you go to 5.
Verse 5. And he said unto them, depart yet for 3 days, then come again to me. And the people departed.
So this was very wise for this young man to do. He didn't make a snap decision. He didn't make a decision right then when they addressed him. He said, give me 3 days and I'll come back with the decision. All right, let's see what he did with those 3 days. Verse 6.
Verse 6.
Uh-huh.
And King
Rehoboam
consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived.
So the first place he went, he was following up his wise decision of making of giving 3 days to think about it with another wise decision. King Solomon, his father, who was the wisest king to ever live, he passed, but his counselors were still there. So he went to his counselors. All right, and keep reading.
Yeah. And said, how do ye advise that I may answer this people?
So he went to the people with experience and requested information on how to do this task, because that was actually wise. That was actually intelligent. Was to know who to go to, and then get their information, get their input. Okay, keep reading.
Verse 7. And they spake unto him, saying, if thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and wilt serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be thy servants forever.
Now, they gave him what is obviously wise counsel. Hey, look, the people are upset.
Right.
Just be nice to them. Just say, look, I got y'all. You might have felt he was too quick to punish you, or he might have been too heavy, or you think taxes might have been a little too high. Okay, we're going to make it a little easier, and you'll have those people. Our people, we are swayed by political speeches. Like, it's not, like, they're doing it to us right now. There's nothing that voting has ever done for our people, but they get out there on their podiums and write up a speech and spew what we know are lies, but we just gotta go vote for one of them. We just gotta do it. Voting has not helped us, but we continue to fall for these speeches. And these counselors, these advisors knew, look, if you drop taxes now, if you just say you're going to drop them down, and then we'll slowly increase them, you'll be fine. But, so he got the advice from people who understood how to deal with the crowd, who how to deal with a nation of people. But Israel has a problem keeping, see, he was making those wise choices or wise decisions. But Israel has a problem. We'll start off going the right way, and then we'll completely go left. I'm down to verse 13.
Verse 13.
Uh-huh.
And the king answered the people roughly.
So he went back after those 3 days, and he started speaking reckless. Keep reading.
And forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him.
So after they gave him this wise counsel, this counsel that they, not only that they would have given his father Solomon, but also counsel from experience that they've had being in the same council chambers as his father,
Right.
working with his father and working with wise men and most likely women from around the world, because Israel was a hub. Merchants came from everywhere. Dignitaries came from everywhere. You were talking to the council of the man who was dealing with all these dignitaries, he was in these boardroom meetings, and you forsook this council.
Right.
You decided to go another way. Let's see what way he went. All right, keep going.
Verse 14. And spake to them after the counsel of the young men.
So he went after the counsel of the young men. See, the counsel of the older men was not the only counsel he saw. He also saw counsel from his peers. He went to his homeboys. He went to his brothers that he grew up with. Now, they weren't the children of the king. They do not have the upbringing. It's honestly, it's like what we do today. You know, we could know somebody who's done pretty well with themselves, but we gonna still go get our advice from our homeboys. We see it happen to NBA players all the time, NFL players, MC Hammer. Like, we could get wise counseling, but we want to get the advice from the cats that we grew up with who don't know nothing. And this is how we end up in this situation. Keep reading.
Saying, my father made your yoke heavy,
Uh-huh.
and I will add to your yoke.
See, he said, see, for complaining, I'm gonna make it worse. It's kind of like when you little and after your mama get finished whooping you, like, quit crying. I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah.
Like, you done beat me, and now I can't even cry because you don't want to hear it. So you cry? Okay, you gonna get some more for crying. How about that? Keep reading.
Yeah. My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions.
So, he's saying that for this complaint, I'm going to be even worse than my father. Now, mind you, Jeroboam, his brother, he knew that wasn't going to sit right with people.
Right.
Before this, he was in exile in Egypt, as King Solomon had put him in exile.
Mm-hmm.
But after King Solomon died and he came back, he did this because he knew what the reaction of the people was.
Right.
He's what they call an agent provocateur. He came up there where it wasn't really as much of an issue to make it an issue. He came up there and he knew that, that Rehoboam was young and that he might not make the best decision. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to get the crowd to say something, and I'm going to get him to react in a way that is, that's pleasing to me, that I get what I want. So he followed the decision of the counsel of the young men. All right, let's see what happened to his kingdom in verse 19. Because again, these people hadn't run a kingdom. These people did not know what to do or how to take care of the kingdom. But as Rehoboam quickly found out, his decisions aren't just small decisions. His decisions were the decisions that changed the entire kingdom. And as priests and prophets of the Most High, we have to understand that is how we are is. That Commander Jerry Yohana's decision saved countless lives after he decided that even though everybody else abandoned the school, he wouldn't. That one man, his decision changed the world for literally everyone in it. Because the nation of Israel wouldn't be raised up properly if that man did not make the decision that he made. So understanding where to get counsel from and understanding that your decisions mean something and matter are keys to be a leader. You can't just make a decision just off of how you feel. You have to make a decision off of experience, and you have to make a decision using either your own experience or the decision of wiser counsel than you. All right, but let's see what happened when he went to the counsel of those who he felt were his peers and not his betters.
Say 19.
Hallelujah.
Verse 19. So Israel rebelled against the house of David until this day.
This is where the kingdom split.
Right.
This is how there is a southern and a northern kingdom. Because he did not take the counsel of the wise men who were above him. He took the counsel of the men who he felt were his equals. He didn't want to learn from his elders. He didn't want to respect their teaching and their guidance. He thought he and his friends knew better. So Israel separated. Israel split. Inexperienced counsel leads to death. It destroys and will tear down everything built up, because that's what inexperience is. Inexperience is the lack of knowledge. You don't know. You can't tell. All right. We're gonna go to Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 33.
6:33.
No, 6 and 33.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, verse 33. If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding.
So now when you start following these men, you will receive understanding if you love to hear. I'm sure everyone's heard the saying, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So you can listen twice as much as you talk.
Right.
So
that's actually a trick.
kind
To listen more and talk less.
of God.
You know what I mean? Be smart.
And walking in here, just about everybody walking in the doors felt like they knew something. Felt like they had something they could say, or something. It was coming in ready to teach a lesson. But you need to come in and understand that you need to love to listen. And that is how you'll receive understanding. All right, keep going.
And if thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise.
So wisdom and understanding first comes from listening. You have to listen those men who have listen to those men who have the experience. That's how you gain the experience without suffering the pain.
Right. And so like what you just said, if you would listen, you would learn without suffering the pain. Our people really believe that going through it is the way to learn. You know what I mean? Like, why do you have to do drugs and lose your teeth in order to learn you shouldn't smoke? You understand? Why do you have to learn that you shouldn't have been out here carjacking people and now you got shot? You understand? And now you can't walk or something like, or you dead. Whatever, you know? Like I said, why do we, and I hate that. Like we just have to learn that, but that's not how you learn. You understand? You would be way smarter if you would listen and when you hear, oh, man, I shouldn't eat pork. Oh, cool. I ain't eat pork then. You understand? But then you turn around and you eat it, and then you got worms in your body, you get infections, you get cancer, you get diabetes, you get high blood pressure, you get all kinds of different things. You get goddamn, it was a sister in the store, and it just made me think about this when I said it before. The sister turned around, I was getting some bacon, right? And of course it was turkey. And the sister said, she said, that's bacon? I said, yeah, it is. You know, older sister. She said, that's turkey? I said, of course it is. I said, I don't know for it. You know, we don't even know each other. We just talking like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then she said, oh, me either, man. I don't know. That's funny you did it. I told, showed her where it was at. Then you turn around and we got to talk about that pork some more. And she was like, oh man, She said, no, I don't eat no pork. She said, everybody I know, they can't eat that pork. They can't even damn walk. And I know what she was talking about because it's something about it. You know what I mean? It affects your body or the way you get big. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you get stuff like all over your body. Like you can't even. And what made that conversation so funny was at my father's repast at his funeral, right? They turned around and served food. Everybody in the building gets mad at me because I didn't want pork served to me, of course, and then they was trying to use the same utensils to pick up the pork and the chicken with, you know what I'm saying? And I ordered. You understand? No. You have to use something clean to get my wing. You understand? No, is that right? You have to use something clean to get my wing. You understand? So they turned around and as I was looking at my family, my entire Christian family, they all was eating their pork, and they all was walking like they had foot and back problems. You understand? And it made me think about that, and it was kind of funny that she said that, but it's serious, it's real. You understand? You are going to get some type of disease, and you are going to be sick, and that's not, how we actually supposed to live our life. Being sick, you're not blessed because you're here and you're sick. You're sick. You know what I'm saying? You're a sinner. You're sick. You eat pork. You're sick. You eat shrimp. You're sick. You celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? New Year. You're sick. You know what I mean? You're homosexual. You're a lesbian. You are sick. And you need a doctor. And I ain't talking about doctor too. You understand? You need to come into this truth. And you need to get work. You need to get operated on. You understand? You get them demons up off of you, and you turn around and get your feet back. Like the cookies to eat their pork, but the war they can't walk. And that was funny that she said that because at that moment, it looked like some of my family ready to fight me about that pork. You know what I mean? They about ready to throw hands with me. But like I said, and I instantly thought about that. I said, man, and I'm looking at it, they in their 40s and 50s out there. They ain't old. They ain't 80 and 90. You understand? Walk with canes. They walk with canes, they 40 and 50. You understand? They just look like they just can't take it. You understand? I don't know how she made it, man. She just, you could tell. Even though she bought her some special shoes, they still don't work. You understand? You could tell her feet burning, killing her. That's part of your punishment. You know, so you said it was the Lord. That's why in the truth, you must keep these laws.
Right.
That's the only way. And it actually feels great. Like to not be a filthy sinner, oh my God. It feels great. I want to see why people read or don't like it or whatever the reason. I love it. You know, it's the best thing ever happened to me. But go ahead.
And these are not just qualities that, you know, you should be looking toward, you should be trying to attain, but these are also qualities in the leader that you should follow. You should follow a leader who can listen. If your leader does not know how to listen, then they can't lead effectively. They cannot lead properly. You can't follow a man who's too proud. His pride will get you killed. There's a reason why these scriptures were laid out for us, because we're a people who constantly needs instruction. Because when we're left up to our own devices and our own mind, we go off, even though the way that we were instructed worked perfectly. There was no flaw in it. It wasn't difficult. We just wanted to do what we wanted to do because we wanted to do it. There was no other reason besides that. All right. What would it be? Hop down to 36. Verse 36.
Now, verse 36. And if thou seest a man of understanding,
Mm-hmm.
get thee betimes unto him.
That means if you see a man and you know that that man has understanding, get to him and get to him swiftly and stay there. Keep reading.
And let thy foot wear the steps of his door.
That's plain and simple and clear cut. Wear out that man's doorstep.
Yeah, right.
You better. And they didn't have phones back there. Blow your captain's phone up. Blow your up. Like, call them. Because that is what they are there for. They are there to teach men how to be better than they are. They are there to instruct men on the way to to raise our nation up. That wear out their ears. Keep going.
Verse 37. Let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments.
Keep those commandments on your mind. And if you notice, it's talking about how to follow that leader, and then it says keep those commandments on your mind. So what that means is while you are following that man, serve him as if you were serving the Most High himself. The commandments and following that man should be right in line. You shouldn't have to deviate. There shouldn't have to be, this man is wise and you gotta understand it. I mean, he do eat pork every now and again, or he do sleep with whores every once in a while. That's not how you should judge your leader. You shouldn't give excuse or occasion for sin. Right. You should expect perfection. Because if that's not what you're here to attain, then I don't understand what you're here for. Like, it's pointless of even coming in the door. Because every man I've met here wants to be perfect. Every man I've met that walked in this school wants to serve the Most High. And to be leaders in this nation, we must be servants. You can't lead the nation of kings and priests and don't know how to serve a priest yourself. How can you instruct them on anything to do when you have no experience? You don't know. All right. No, just how? I don't know.
He shall establish thine heart and give thee wisdom to thine own desire.
So he shall establish your heart. He will put your mind on a firm foundation. He will teach you those commandments, so that way your heart, your mind could be stable. It could be established. And give thee wisdom, and give thee wisdom at thine own desire. Now, that goes perfectly with the verse above it about wearing out the step of his door. These men are here, and these men have jobs, responsibilities, and families. And they, if you want to grow, and if you want to become a leader, it is your duty to go and get the wisdom from them. It's not their duty to force the wisdom on you. That's why it says, and he will give, and give thee wisdom at thine own desire. You have to go look for it. You have to get yourself there, and you have to be going after this knowledge. You have to be going after this information. You have to be going after the understanding for yourself. And it's your own personal responsibility. It's not up to somebody to hold your hand. It's not up to somebody to babysit you. You have to seek out this knowledge. And when you find the men who have the knowledge, it is your duty then to wear out their footsteps. It is your duty then to seek the wisdom and to request and to go after and to go after and to go after it. Because that, what you don't know is because you didn't open your mouth and ask. When you don't understand it because you didn't want to understand it. You thought you knew. Your pride, your arrogance is showing. We can hop to chapter 8, verse 8. Okay.
Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 8. Turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
Ecclesiastes 8 and 8.
8 and 8.
Oh,
No,
slide,
nine and
slide,
eight.
slide, slide. Okay. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 8. Despise not the discourse of the wise.
Don't hate the speech of those men above you. Don't get tripped up because you know that they're having a discussion, and a lot of people have an issue when people are having a discussion and they're not involved or they're not being allowed to speak. Sometimes you just need to shut your mouth, sit there, and just listen. You'll gain more. I can't tell you how many times I've been, sitting there in a discussion of, wiser men than me, men over me. And I had a question about something, and they would just answer it in the middle of them having their discourse. But me hopping in to ask the question would have messed things up. And then one of them might not have said anything about it, and I still would have found out. Sometimes you get more just by shutting up and listening than you do by asking. Now, I'm not saying that, if you have a question, don't ask. But when the wise men are having a discourse, they're having a conversation, being heard, being seen and not heard is also good for adults too at times. It's good to just be there and just to be the fly on the wall. So you should never, despise the discourse of the wise. Keep going.
But acquaint thyself with their proverbs.
Get familiar with what they're saying. Get familiar with their wise sayings. Their wise sayings have a root somewhere. There's not wise sayings are experience put into a little phrase. People have come up with these sayings because of tragedy. People have come up with these sayings because of misfortune in their lives. So when you get yourself acquainted with the proverbs, the wise sayings of these wise men, what you're actually doing is you're gaining experience. You're gaining knowledge because as soon I love the way it happens with, especially with me. I've always had a thing about sitting, chilling with old black men. Because they have phrases that they throw in there and they pop up in your head in the situation. So it's not like it's just useless knowledge or that their proverbs won't mean anything. No, you hear that thing your grandpa used to say every time you get in that same situation. Like it's those proverbs they're meant to stick with us. So this is why you shouldn't hate them. This is why you shouldn't despise them. This is why you should become familiar with them. Keep going.
For of them thou shalt learn instruction,
Uh-huh.
and how to serve great men with ease.
Again, they are the ones who are teaching you, and it says that you'll understand how to serve great men with ease. With their experience, they're not gonna an actual great man, an actual good man, an actual man that you should be following is not going to put a burden or a weight on you just for the fun of it, just to do it. So whatever burden they're putting on you, it's to train you up. It's to build you up. When you go to the gym and when you lift weights, you're not lifting weights because this is the weight that you think that you're going to need to lift. No, it's more than what you need to lift. The weight is higher. Why? Because you want to be able to take care of that stress, so when a lighter stress comes, it's nothing. It's the same when you feel like you're just being put under so much pressure by a man who's above you. No, what he's teaching you is how to build that resilience, how to build that muscle memory, and how to serve great men with ease. These are things that we should have been taught as children, but because the devil runs the world, we were never allowed to learn these things. He set up the system and the society to where it would be difficult for us to learn from men in our own community. And the men that were allowed to be left were the men who you shouldn't be learning from anyway. All right. We got that. We want to go to Ecclesiastes 34 and 9. Because this was showing how you gain proper instruction. And you can be instructed in, again, positive ways and negative ways, but we need to understand and realize and recognize the qualities of men who actually follow these laws. Men who
consent on a few items.
keep up with the standard that was set before us by our forefathers, by the Most High, and given to us as a law. And we have to look at their journey and take what they say and understand that it comes from somewhere, and it comes from a place that teaches us how to go the right way. It teaches us the way we should go. All right, you got first?
34,
Starting at 9.
see,
Starting at verse 9?
9.
Count on down.
Ecclesiastes chapter 34, verse 9.
Uh-huh.
A man that hath traveled knoweth many things.
See, this is what it's talking about gaining experience. A man that's gone somewhere knows a couple things.
Right.
He's been around the block a couple times. That's what it's saying. A man that's
Right.
traveled and knows many things. Keep going.
And he that hath much experience will declare wisdom.
So the more experience you gain, not only the more knowledge that you gain, but you also gain the wisdom of what happens when that knowledge is applied, what happens in real life. So he's traveled. It's like someone who hasn't traveled doesn't know as much. Someone who hasn't experienced as much doesn't really have that wisdom. because they haven't gone through what this person's gone through who's already done these things. All right, keep going.
Verse 10, he that hath no experience knoweth little.
So that's why you need to come, when you come into the school, you have no experience in the truth. So you don't know nothing. You need to keep your mouth shut and you need to learn. You need to sit back and listen. Take notes. Take notes. This is a school. Far too few people walk in here with notebooks and pencils. Notes. I don't know any school where you don't take notes. Taking notes is essential. How else are you going to go back and learn anything? How else do you I'm sorry, it just befuddles me that you come into a school with no notebook, pen and paper. When you're not expecting to learn anything. You're not you still treat this like church. Because you didn't have to take notes, man. You just go in there and say whatever you want to say and then walk out. In here, you need notes. In here, we're actually learning what this is. We're actually going over precepts. It's actual knowledge. It's actual understanding. We're actually teaching things. So you need to be able to take notes. You need to come in and realize that you know little and that you need to learn and be writing down things that the men above you are telling you. Keep going.
But he that hath traveled is full of prudence.
You won't make as stupid of decisions as you do if you have had some experience. You make dumb choices when you don't have experience. We seen Rambo do just that. He had no experience, and first thing he did was the stupidest thing he could have done possible. Listen to the young men instead of the old men. Listen to new counselors instead of wise counselors. Listen to men who had no experience in anything over the men who had experience in keeping Israel as profitable of a country and a nation as it was.